In today's society, we have lost traditional culture for too long. We revere science and think that there is no scientific basis for the Buddhist teachings. And in the absence of scientific basis, we complain that it is superstition. Thus, this has caused such a decline of Buddhism in its entirety. People no longer wish to learn it. When I was young, I was the same. When I was at school, all the teachers said that it was superstition. Thus, we became prejudiced towards religion and was not interested in it. My belief in the Buddha is something that I could not have imagined. I was then 26 years old in Taiwan and was studying philosophy from Professor Fang Dongmai. Professor Fang was exceptional and offered me a special course. My lessons were at his home, not at the university. Every Sunday in his small living room with a little round table and me as the only student. It was one-to-one. He would teach me especially about an introduction to philosophy for 2 hours each week. The final unit was about philosophy of the Buddhist sutras. I queried at the time. I said, the Buddhist sutras, Buddhism is a religion and superstition, particularly Buddhism, which worships everything and is thus considered pantheism amongst religions. Pantheism. Unlike other higher-grade religions which have only one God, they just worship only God. Buddhism worships everything. What does it belong to? Polytheism. Polytheism being lower-grade religions, how could it have philosophy? Teacher told me, you are young, you do not understand. Sakyamuni, he did not say Buddha. He said, Sakyamuni is the world's greatest philosopher. The world's greatest philosopher. The philosophy of the Buddhist sutras is the pinnacle of all philosophies in the world. Learning Buddhism is the ultimate enjoyment of life. This changed my previous ideas about religion and Buddhism. I was very curious and asked him, I said, how did you come to learn it? He told me that during the Sino-Japanese War, he was teaching at the National Central University. He was very young when he became a famous professor. He said that one time he was ill and recuperating at Mount Ma, which we refer to as one of the 4 great Buddhist centers of Buddhism. It is the Mount Ma of Sichuan province. I have subsequently visited Mount Ma twice. On the mountain, there were no newspapers, magazines or anything except Buddhist sutras. As they say, intellectuals love to read books and love to read throughout their life. Thus, he took up one of the scriptures to pass the time. The more he reads, the better it got, and he discovered that there were true things in Buddhism. From then on, he never went a day without reading the Buddhist sutras. That was how he came to read the Buddhist sutras daily. I needed to examine his background before I could believe him. Thus, I found out that during his senior years in Taiwan, he just taught Buddhist studies at university as a major unit. Major units such as Buddhist studies of the Wei and Jin dynasties. The philosophy of the Avatamsaka Sutra, he established such courses. He would take 1 or 2 semesters to complete one of those courses. I estimate that he spent approximately over 20 years Buddhist sutras during his senior years. This is rare indeed. After retiring from National Taiwan University, he taught philosophy of the Avatamsaka Sutra for the doctorate students at Fu Jen Catholic University. This is how we started and came to know about the truths in it. At the time, Professor Fang was very young. The photo that we now provide was taken at that time, which was how he looked when I was learning from him. His appearance during the senior years was good. He was well built in his senior years. Being well built in senior years, he was very good looking. Is this while he was younger? Which should be before he was 50 years old. It must be. I was 26 and he was over 20 years my senior. Yes, so it was most exceptional. Thus, I came to know that the Buddhist sutras had such truths. Particularly when he told me that learning Buddhism is the ultimate enjoyment of life. This moved me deeply. Thus, I subsequently followed Great Master Zhangzha and was a part-time lecturer in philosophy. I thus specialized in Buddhist studies. Great Master Zhangzha advised me to become a monastic and to learn from Sakyamuni Buddha. Sakyamuni Buddha taught the sutras throughout his life. He didn't do anything else, which is equivalent to being a professional teacher. He was also a voluntary teacher. It was voluntary. There was no tuition fee. He didn't charge tuition fee. Thus, it was a very noble profession. Truly extraordinary. The Buddha's life was simple. You see, he ate one meal at midday and rested beneath a tree. From this it can be seen that he was physically healthy. If you were not physically healthy, the average person would not be able to endure being under a tree in the wild outdoors at night and sitting in meditation in the same way every day. Thus, we can see from this that Sakyamuni was physically healthy.
Venerable, how was he physically healthy?
He was trained. He was trained. First, his mind was pure without desire. Without desire. Without desire. Second, he was hardworking. Hardworking. You see him going out to collect alms every day. Always traveling on foot, walking is exercise. During the Sino-Japanese War, my body traveled through 10 provinces on foot, just walking with my 2 legs. There was no means of transportation. I needed to walk a minimum of 60 Chinese miles per day and 120 Chinese miles at the most. I walked every day. You don't know that sort of hardship. However, the hardship had many advantages for us. We were thus able to see more things and hear more things. Walking is also a form of exercise and disciplines the body. Thus, it is extremely good to have few desires. One has a very simple life. It is enough to be able to not go hungry, dress warmly, and not have any other desire. One's mind will be pure throughout life. I learned this from Sakyamuni Buddha. The Buddhist scriptures have endless delight. I have now studied for 60 years and taught sutras for 53 years. I now truly know that the Buddhist sutras are not only the highest philosophy, they are also the highest science. Talk about atoms in the last 30 years. Physicists have talked about atoms for almost 80 years. 80 years, there has been 80 years of history. However, there has been progress by leaps and bounds in the last 30 years. I see that their reports are totally identical to the Buddhist sutras. Thus I have reason to believe that if science continues to develop in that direction in 20 to 30 years' time, Buddhism will no longer be a religion. Buddhist teachings are not a religion, they are a science of mind. Jack Kornfield. If there is any religion that could respond to the needs of modern science, it would be Buddhism. Albert Einstein. Buddhism is all science. If science is the systematic pursuit of the accurate knowledge of reality, then science is Buddhism. Buddhism is science. Robert Thurman. Scientists will consider it as the highest science and the highest philosophy. The problems that have not been resolved by science and philosophy can be resolved by the sutras, which even contain the methods. Thus, it really is a great learning.
A great learning.
It is a great pity that so few people know about it nowadays.